Oh hey, that's a pretty nice helmet right there. What if I could just, yoink? Oh wow, that actually worked. This is a tutorial on how to make an FS-38 ERADICATOR helmet from Helldivers2. In this video, I will be using templates which I designed myself, link in the description. Now, on with the video. To start off, you'll need to print out the templates and cut out all the parts with a 1/2 centimeter border around each piece. Once everything is cut out, you'll need to separate the parts into two piles. The first pile will be going on what I call cereal box cardboard, which is 1 millimeter thick, and it's mostly used for more detailed pieces that require more precision. The second pile will be going on corrugated cardboard, which is often used for packaging, and it's around 2 millimeters thick. And here's a list of what pieces go on what type of cardboard. After you've sorted it all out, you'll want to glue each part onto its corresponding type of cardboard with a glue stick. Then, you'll want to cut it all out. For this, I recommend using an X-Acto knife or a box cutter and scissors to clean up the edges. Now that all the parts are cut out, we can start building the helmet. To start off, I'm going to build the dome. I started off by gluing the darts together on this middle piece. Darts are the triangular cutouts that when glued together give the cardboard a more rounded shape. You want to make sure that the edges are cut at an angle so that it's easier to glue them together. Here you can see me cutting the bottom two layers with scissors to give it an angle. And this is what it looks like once it's all glued together. To finish this middle piece, I'm going to make that front detail. To fold it together more easily, I'm scoring the inside of the cardboard along the dotted lines. Just be careful not to cut all the way through the cardboard. This is what that piece looks like once it's all folded together. Here's the box detail, which you fold inwards and fits into the other piece like so. After you glue it together and onto the middle piece, it should look something like this. Next, I'm going to add these side panels, which have an overhang where the middle piece will sit on top of. I cut out wedges along these lines so that the middle piece can lay flat, and so I can see where the overhang ends when I'm gluing on the middle piece. Just keep in mind that at the front, the side panels sit flush with the middle piece. And here it is with both sides glued on. These are the final pieces that make up the dome. First, I glued both halves together and then made sure it was centered with the rest of the dome before gluing it on. And that's a completed dome. Next up is the visor. Here you can see how the top piece will connect to the two side panels. You'll want to start off by gluing the darts together on both side panels before cutting a 2mm groove along the front facing edges so that the rim will fit in better. Once that's done, you can glue all three parts together. And here's what the visor is looking like so far. Next up are these two pieces that make up the rim of the visor. First, I glued both pieces together, and then I attached it to the rest of the visor. Keep in mind that the inner rim faces inwards at roughly a 90-degree angle relative to the outer rim. And that's a completed visor. These next couple of pieces are like a bunch of islands which I'll bridge together later, but they all follow roughly the same idea of scoring the inside of the cardboard and then gluing the darts together. These overcomplicated boxes may look intimidating, but once you get the hang of gluing darts together, it should become pretty easy. And this is what those boxes look like once they're all glued together. These pieces make up the side panels that go right below the visor. And this is how those completed side panels look. Just note that at the top it's a little bit rounded, as you can see here. So just remember to score the inside of the cardboard so that it curves nicely. This piece here will be sitting right under the dome, bridging both of the overcomplicated boxes together. Next, I'm going to be working on that bottom piece with that rounded detail and those two pieces that extend off of the boxes. I think you're starting to get the pattern, but starting off with this back panel, I'm going to glue the darts together again. Here you can see where the circular bits will go, which will be connected by cardboard strips that go along the inside and outside. The longer strip of cardboard will be going around the outside of the ring, and the shorter strip will be going around the inside. And here's the finished circle detail. Now for these pieces that attach to the box, you just have to bend it a little and cut a groove so that the bottom can fold in and cover up all the corrugation. And here's how it looks with all the corrugation covered up. Now I'm going to work on these two pieces at the front. These two pieces were quite difficult for me to put together because the pieces were a bit small, so I recommend taking your time putting it together. First, I glued the darts together on the box. Then, I glued the other two pieces together before attaching the box to it. This is what both of those pieces look like once they're all glued together. Next, I'm going to make the bottom rim of the helmet. Here you can see I already broke my piece, which I'll fix later, but in your templates it should be two separate pieces that you want to temporarily glue together. These two pieces will make up that outer wall that goes around that bottom ring. Some things to keep in mind when putting it together is that the outer edge sits at roughly a 110-degree angle relative to the bottom ring. And at the back you want to have a smooth transition in between both pieces, which will come in handy later on. Finally, I'm going to work on this piece that sits at the front of the helmet. This is the last piece you have to put together before we assemble the helmet. You'll want to start off by gluing the darts together on that chin piece, which you'll see later, and those two boxes. These boxes will fit into the side of the faceplate, like so. Next up is this rim piece, which will be going along the top of the faceplate. You want to line it up by making sure the corners match on either side. To give the mouthpiece the proper look, we're going to need to make an extra piece. To do this, we're going to trace that chin piece onto a spare piece of cardboard. Once that's cut out, we can glue it onto the back of the chin piece, like so. This next step is optional, but I covered up some of the corrugation by peeling off the top layer of some spare cardboard and then gluing it on top of the corrugation, cutting the excess off with some scissors. Now, we can connect the chin piece to the faceplate like so. After that, it's just a matter of gluing on the rest of the details, and that's the front of the helmet completed. Now that all of these sections have been completed, I can begin assembling the helmet. To begin assembling the helmet, I'm first going to attach the dome to the visor. To help you line it up properly, you can use the dotted lines on the inside of both pieces. Well, here's what it looks like once the visor has been glued onto the dome. At the back you can see I didn't completely glue the visor onto the dome because there needs to be a little gap which makes up that groove detail on either side. Next, I'm going to glue on the boxes that go right under the visor. And like I said before, you can use the lines on the inside to line up each piece. Now that those boxes are glued in, we can add the side panels. But before I do that, I need to make a piece which will fill in the gap in between the visor and the side panels. To make that piece, you want to trace out the inside of the visor onto an extra piece of cardboard, and then add a bit of a border around the line on either side. The only places where the side panel directly connects to the box is along these red lines. And here's one side completed. So this is what that extra piece looks like. First, I glued that extra piece onto the side panel before attaching it to the box. And finally, I glued the rest onto the visor. Next up are these tube pieces which run along the side of the helmet. The only thing you have to do for these pieces is score the inside of the cardboard so that it nicely folds along the lines. The tube piece will connect to the side panel and the box, like so. Here's the helmet with both of the tubes glued on. Now that the sides have been completed, it's time to make the back side. This follows a similar process as the side panels, where you need to trace out an extra piece to fill in the gap, only a bit more complex. You first want to glue on these smaller pieces which attach directly to the boxes on the side, before tracing out that extra piece. Here's the piece that I made to fill in the gap. I'm going to first glue it onto the helmet before attaching the back piece, which will fit in like so. And here it is, all glued together. Here you can see I also covered up the little groove detail in between the dome and the visor with some spare pieces of cardboard. To complete this half of the helmet, we need to attach the front of the tubes to the rest of the helmet. Here, you will also want to make an extra piece which connects both tube segments together. Just remember to keep a 4mm gap in between both segments. Now I'm going to assemble the bottom of the helmet. First, we're going to glue on these cheek pieces on either side. Then we need to make an extra piece that fills in the gap between these two other pieces. Luckily, this is the last time we have to do this. And keep in mind that there's roughly a 5mm gap in between the two pieces. And here it is, all glued together. Now, I just need to attach the faceplate to the bottom of the helmet like so. And keep in mind that the cheek piece goes underneath the faceplate. This step is optional, but I wanted to give the helmet some more depth by adding 2 extra pieces which I traced out onto the inside of the faceplate. Now that that's done, I can glue the faceplate onto the bottom of the helmet. Before I glue both halves of the helmet together, I'm going to separate the bottom into 2 pieces so that my head can fit in more easily. This is why I said you want to temporarily glue both of these pieces together, because later on I would be cutting it in half anyways. Now that I split the bottom piece in half, it's much easier to attach it to the rest of the helmet. You can see here I already glued the tube to the bottom half, which will keep it in place nicely so I can glue the rest together. All I have to do now is just glue the visor to the faceplate, the cheeks to the faceplate, and the tubes to the cheeks. Now that that's all glued together, the only thing left to do is to make the details. Once those two pieces have been glued together, that's the finished helmet, which also means that's the end of the tutorial. Now that the helmet is complete, that marks the end of part 1. Part 2 will be coming out soon and will be about the next 3 steps, which is resin, filler, and painting. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, hope you have a great day. Subscribe.